The Jewish Channel's Week in Review. Netanyahu for the first time utters the words Palestinian state. What else did he say? An admitted molester tries to return to work at a Queens bakery. The godfathers of punk rock talk about their Jewishness. Why New York isn't the only place to be Jewish. Fasting for Darfur. And much more of the Jewish news that's changing your world in this webcast version of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. For months now, observers have been talking about Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's unwillingness to echo President Barack Obama's call for a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Well, he has now. In a speech delivered in Hebrew at Israel's Bar Ilan University, Netanyahu announced, quote, "If we get a guarantee of demilitarization, and if the Palestinians recognize Israel as the Jewish state, we are ready to agree to a real peace agreement, a demilitarized Palestinian state side by side with the Jewish state." Those two main conditions, a Palestinian state without any military or military treaties, and one that recognizes Israel as a Jewish state, are now the most hotly debated topics of the Israeli-Palestinian future, with those on the right and left predictably in disagreement. But President Barack Obama expressed some reserved compliments about the speech.
Overall, I thought that there was positive movement in the Prime Minister's speech.
There's more on Netanyahu's speech in the broadcast version of the Week in Review. Well, while Israel sorts out its future, one organization is trying to diminish the influence of another Jewish population center, New York. Rebecca Honig-Friedman explains.
If there was one message to be learned at the Orthodox Union's Emerging Jewish Communities and Job Fair this past Sunday, it was this.
That there's more to the Jewish world than the New York metropolitan area.
Indeed, with representatives from 22 American Orthodox Jewish communities outside of New York, places commonly referred to by New York-centric Jews as out of town, the OU's goal was to let Orthodox New Yorkers know they have other options.
Some of the people in New York don't even know about these communities, so I invited them to come, and I think for the first time they're getting exposure, and people are looking and saying, you know what, maybe I could move to Norfolk, Virginia, or Richmond, Virginia, or Denver. For
more from the job fair, including how increased religious tolerance could make these communities more attractive, check out the broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Rebecca. Whether Jews are from New York or not, one reason to visit is to get a sense of the Jewish history here. And the Jewish history of punk rock is no exception. Christian Needon reports.
New York City's Lower East Side was a tough place to live in the 1970s, and it spawned a tough genre of music known as punk rock. But few know that many of the now famous people who helped create New York's punk scene were Jewish. Last week, the YIVO Institute for Jewish Research held a punk reunion of sorts, with 4 Jewish punk rock fathers coming together on one stage to discuss how the confusions of a New York Jewish upbringing influenced their music.
I grew up not culturally confused, religiously confused. I was bar mitzvahed, but my father would also say, "Rich, I left you some ham or bacon in the refrigerator."
I went to a yeshiva in the South Bronx, and then I went in Brooklyn. I actually went to the Lubavitcher yeshiva, which is Hasidic, but I wasn't myself Hasidic, so that was kind of strange.
I find myself drawn to the minor key, which is a very Hebraic way of melody and harmony, and so sometimes I feel like some of the music I listened to as a child and grew up with and heard in the synagogue has, subconsciously affected the way I hear music and the notes that I will go to. You can't get rid of the stuff that's deep in your genes.
Thank you, Christian. By the way, Christian had so much fun with the icons of punk rock that we couldn't fit everything into his story. Check in at our News Desk blog soon for some web bonus clips. A kosher bakery owner who lured a young boy with cookies so that he could abuse him is free this week. Rebecca Honig-Friedman stopped by that bakery to get the story on the street.
Behind me is the Queens Pita Bakery, a popular kosher bakery here on Main Street in Kew Gardens, Queens, whose former co-owner, Isaac Epstein, recently pled guilty to charges of child molestation. Reactions among local shopkeepers and residents were mixed, but all shared a sense of disbelief at the news.
I really didn't expect this from this guy. He was a really nice guy. I know him for like 32 years. He seems like a nice guy. It's really shocking when I heard,
For more on Epstein, including how Jewish groups are trying to keep him from returning to work at the same kosher bakery where the abuse was initiated, please check out the broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Rebecca. Ruth Messenger, head of the American Jewish World Service, this week completed a 48-hour fast to raise awareness about the genocide in Darfur, joined by upwards of 300 other activists and rabbis in the Jewish community. In an interview the morning after she broke her fast, Messenger told TJC the fast was a personal reminder of the plight of Darfurians. She was inspired in part by the recent reversal of humanitarian progress in the region, with the Sudanese president throwing humanitarian aid groups out of the country, thus decreasing people's access to basic provisions.
So with the message that there were 1.1 million people at new risk of not getting food or water or health care, I thought it was important for me and perhaps for others to remind ourselves of what does this mean? What does this feel like?
We've got more with Messenger in the broadcast version of the Week in Review. Finally, we at the Jewish Channel certainly aren't arrogant enough to suggest we should be your only source of Jewish news, and one website that launched this week could be a quite valuable destination. Tablet Magazine is the brainchild of Alana Newhouse, formerly the celebrated arts and culture editor of The Forward, and also a host of a previous TJC series, Movie Talk. She brought a number of big names from The Forward with her, and in one very interesting edition, Newhouse lured former Gawker.com editor and New York Magazine senior editor Jesse Oxfeld to join the Jewish media on Tablet's masthead. You might remember his humorous observations from TJC's Holy Days series. Tablet's only a week old, but already it's providing very valuable news and analysis on a regular basis. A rising tide raises all ships, and we at TJC are particularly happy to see Tablet setting a higher standard for all of us in Jewish media. You can check out Tablet for yourself at tabletmag.com. That's all for this week. For more news and analysis from the Jewish Channel, please visit our blog at newsdesk.tjctv.com. For the full broadcast version of the Week in Review, including additional stories, interviews, and features, please check out the Jewish Channel on cable. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable. IO Optimum Cable Channel 291, Time Warner Cable Channel 528, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and Cox Cable Channel 1. For more information, visit tjctv.com.